15 miles in, and I gotta say, this is where everything starts to hurt. Maybe worst of all though, it's a mental grind. This is when the self-doubt stops creeping in and floods in instead.
I said at the end of the last video that week 13 and week 14 were going to be the big test to determine whether or not I thought I might be able to make the start line at the Wineglass Marathon on October 5th. So after a cumulative 78 miles over the past 2 weeks, including a 20-mile run to close out week 14, what am I thinking? Well, I think this sums it up best.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving!
So yeah, barring any setbacks, I'm coming for the start line at the Wineglass Marathon. The last 2 weeks of training went about as well as I could have hoped considering the injury. I think I can attribute that to a few things. The first is that I was pretty cautious in the initial week following the injury. That allowed me to build back slowly and really test out my foot to see how it was feeling. The second is a commitment to physical therapy and home exercises. I ended up only needing a few physical therapy sessions to rehab this, but I think they were invaluable. If nothing else, they gave me confidence to start using my foot again in a safe way. The third was utilizing the treadmill and the track to accomplish some of my more grinded out runs. These runs can be incredibly dull, and I much prefer running through my neighborhood or on a nearby trail. But having a predictable running surface was wildly beneficial to ensuring I didn't misstep and further injure myself. Don't get me wrong, there were times when I simply did not want to do another treadmill run.
I am back running on the treadmill, and I'm just feeling very discouraged right now. I gotta say, I'm getting tired of running on the treadmill.
It's not light yet. It's raining outside. I could not stomach the thought of another treadmill run. But I'm grateful I had that option. All right, let's talk the runs I did do in the past 2 weeks. I think my biggest mistake in the past 2 weeks was attempting my neighborhood route for 5 miles at the beginning of week 13. It had a lot of turns, up and down different cul-de-sacs, and it put unnecessary pressure on my injured foot. I managed to get through it with an average pace of 10 minutes per mile and an average heart rate of just 121 beats per minute.
Good morning. It is the start of week 13. And this begins the real test of my foot this week and next week. This week, I have 5 miles today, 5 miles tomorrow, 5 miles on Thursday, and then some longer runs over the weekend. I'm gonna start at the beginning, take it one day at a time, just see how these first 5 miles go, back home in my neighborhood on my usual route.
By the second day of week 13, I wisened up and opted for a treadmill run. I was supposed to do 5 miles, but only had time for 4.5. I think past Josh would have said, well, if I can't get the whole workout in, why even bother? But I'm glad I got most in because I opted to make up that missing half mile on day 3 of week 13. Instead of a morning run, I would have likely had to cut short again. I ran in the evening. I really didn't want to do it, but I pushed through and managed somehow to run 5.5 miles on the treadmill. By day 4, I was over and out on treadmill running, but I knew it was what was best for my foot, so I gathered all the resolve I had and got it done. After all,
I did sign up for this, so, you know, I guess I only have myself to blame. Okay, that is 8 miles on the treadmill finished. I gotta say, I'm getting tired of running on the treadmill. But I know it's the best thing for rehabbing my foot because it's a very controlled environment. Straight, no curves. Feels okay. So I'm continuing to be hopeful, cautiously optimistic.
Despite poorer weather than I would have hoped for, I decided to do my Sunday long run outside. I was moderately worried about injuring myself due to the wet conditions, but got a good 12 miles finished with an average pace of 9:32 per mile, an average heart rate of 132, and I closed with an 8:55 mile. Good morning. It is week 13, day 5. I fear I've made a huge mistake. I was up before 6 o'clock this morning, and now I am out to do my 12-mile run this morning. It's not light yet. It's raining outside. I could not stomach the thought of another treadmill run. I haven't run outside in 5 days. I haven't done a long run outside in a week. I'm just going to take it slow this morning. I want to avoid injury at all costs. So slow and steady, and do my best out there. We'll see how it goes. Okay, that's it. That's 12 miles. Whew. I felt pretty good. The rain mostly held off, and I was under the cover of trees for most of it. I really pushed it those last 3 miles. Not for any particular reason, just because it felt pretty good. I'll call that a win for today.
With week 13 in the proverbial bank, it was time for a 43-mile week, which would mark the second biggest of the entire block, with a 20-mile behemoth run to close out the week. The first day of week 14 was an 8-mile run. And you know what? This one was one of my favorites of the entire block. It was peaceful, it was a cool September morning, and there was virtually no one out on the trail where I was running.
Whew. Okay, that's it. That is 8 miles finished. I felt okay for most of the run. I just sort of feel like my body's falling apart maybe a little bit. I don't like that, but on to the next one.
Day 2 was a 5-mile run, and since the weather was still relatively cool, I opted to run on my local track.
Week 14, day 2. It's like raining out here. I did not think it was supposed to rain this morning. I'm headed up to the track to do 5 miles this morning, trying to find just a pretty even surface to run on. So, almost there, then a bunch of loops.
Runs were 5 miles each. I did both on the treadmill, and the first was at an easy pace. I finished that run with an average pace of 9:32 per mile. The second 5 miles was meant to be at goal marathon pace, and since I got started way later than I'd hoped, I had to push it even faster than that. I ended up running those 5 miles in 42:38 with an average heart rate of 143.
This is hard.
That brings us to the most daunting run of all, the 20-miler. Was I feeling confident about this? No. But was I mentally prepared to run 20 miles at 6:30 on a Sunday morning? Also, no. I was as physically prepared as I could be, though, and I got everything ready the night before and really tried to treat this as a dress rehearsal for the marathon. I'd say I mostly succeeded. My biggest failure was that I'd hoped to take down 6 gels during the run, but I only managed 5. When I got to mile 18, I just couldn't stomach the thought of another gel. It wasn't a problem for this particular training run, but that ain't gonna cut it for the marathon. So still TBD how I'm going to address that. Anyway, it otherwise went pretty well. I finished in 3 hours and 16 minutes for an average pace of 9:47 per mile.
It is the end of week 14. I am out for my biggest run of this entire training block. The goal is 20 miles. Not gonna lie, feeling pretty nervous about it. All I can do is try my best and try not to put too much pressure on myself, and instead use this as practice for what the marathon's gonna be like. Through 3 miles, about to take my first gel, which is a Morton 160. My plan today is to take 6 gels, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and mile 18. I probably don't need the last gel for this particular run, but I'm practicing for the race, so I'm gonna try to get it down. Six miles. Gotta say, I'm already feeling it. Trying to remind myself it's slow and steady for this one. That's the point. About to take my second gel, a Go Gel from BPN. 14 to go. 9 miles in. About to take my third gel, a Morton 100. Once I get halfway, just over 10 miles, I'm going to refill my Camelback and then hit the last 10. I am through 12 miles. Water refill was successful. Not gonna lie, I'm feeling very tired. 8 miles left seems like an eternity. Next gel coming up, another Go Gel from BPN, this time with caffeine. Try to push through the last 8 miles. 15 miles in, and I gotta say, this is where everything starts to hurt. Maybe worst of all though, it's a mental grind. This is when the self-doubt stops creeping in and floods in instead. But I'm trying to remind myself that this is the last significant long run I've got before the marathon. So I've got to give it everything I've got. 18 miles finished, 2 to go. It's all mind over matter now. Mind over matter. Oh, okay. Oh, it's 20 miles. Oh. Be careful standing up. Oh, 20 miles finished. That was really tough. Last big significant run before the marathon, which is 3 weeks from today. Ready or not, barring any setbacks, here I come. On to the next one.
So that's it. A pretty encouraging 20-mile run to close out week 14. That leaves just 3 weeks until marathon morning. How am I feeling with so little time between now and then? Well, I feel okay. I still have a good bit of self-doubt with regards to my goal. Can I possibly run under 4 hours? Maybe. I'm worried the lapse in training I dealt with will be my downfall there. But as I've talked about before, maybe I'm looking at it all wrong. Maybe the journey really is the reward. So for now, I'm gonna try to enjoy the last 3 weeks of training and see where I am on October 5th. As always, I'm grateful to run and grateful for today. Thanks for watching. See you soon.